All right, folks, welcome back to the shop. In Subaru news today, a weird one. Subaru has filed a patent in the US Patent Office for a virtual manual transmission. Strange. We're going to get into that. Before we dive into it, just want to say, if you like this content that we're putting out, like these videos, if you're watching on a mobile device and you see the hype button, please hype it so that helps our video content get out there so more people can see it. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and of course, head over to flatironsstudent.com because your support there is what helps us come back here to make these videos for you. So we greatly appreciate that. All right, so let's dive into this weird patent for a virtual manual transmission. Now, this is not for a sim racer or anything like that. This is for an EV, right down to the clutch pedal, the H pattern shifter, all that stuff, but in an EV. So Subaru filed this patent, and it's called the Jackrabbit Start Prevention Device, which is strange. And what in the verbiage of the patent, what they're talking about is how to start the EV, you'll have to have the clutch pedal depressed just like a manual car. The car will stall if you come up to a stop without pushing in the clutch, but you can select between manual and automatic modes. So it's basically you can make the EV perform like a manual transmission. Now, why would Subaru do this? And why is this interesting? I think this is actually really interesting. And to get to the root of that, let's look at this quote that James Pumphrey had on the Spike's Car Radio podcast a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about cool cars for 2026. But he made this really interesting comment about EVs. So let's listen to that quote.
Audi S4 V8, super attractive.
Totally.
I would drive that. That's a great recommendation.
And I also think like electric cars being so fast has sort of pushed us to like not care as much about ultimate performance and more about the experience. And I think the driving experience of a naturally aspirated V8 is pretty good.
Okay, so experience. The experience is strongly becoming the priority between a combustion engine car and an EV. We know that EVs, you can turn the performance dial up to 11, heck even 12, pretty darn easily, but the experience is different. To know that Subaru is looking at this as simulating a manual transmission in an EV, that's all going to be around the experience of it. Now, what's really wild about this is, so this patent was filed now in 2026, but in reading some of the articles and digging around, there was a test vehicle going back to 2022 that was running Subaru's system. It was in a Lexus EV, but you can see like there is a simulated manual transmission in this EV back in 2022. Now, why does the time matter? Well, remember, Subaru announced that they were killing off the STI and they were going to move to an all-electric version in 2021. So this means that they had a system that was developed enough so that they can actually test it in 2022, but we're now just seeing this patent now in 2026. I think the big positive here is I think Subaru may have been thinking along these lines all the way back to that point, the early 20s, when they were moving to an EV platform, because they're thinking about the experience. They're thinking about the experience of what it is to be an STI, the performance that an EV has, but how can an EV develop an STI level experience? Well, manual transmission and feeling like the car is a manual, that would be a big part of that experience. In the comments, let me know if you agree with that. There's another possible part here, which again, it comes down to the experience. And Subaru, if you use this is my idea, I'm throwing it out here, you owe me an STI, just saying. All right, so stick with me here. Now right now with Hyundai and some of the other EV manufacturers, they're simulating transmissions with paddle shifts and all that sort of thing. Part of the way that they're getting this to work is by manipulating or controlling how the power is delivered based on the gear that's selected. Moving to an H pattern shifter, there's not a big step from that point. But think about this, because in an EV you can control that power delivery by gear, like that's where it brings in a different level of control, i.e. the experience. But imagine if you hop in your STI EV and you say, you know what, today I want to drive a 22B, and you select 22B, and now they're able to map the power and performance delivery in each gear to mimic exactly a 22B. So you're shifting and you're driving, and it feels like you're driving a 22B, but you're driving this new electric STI. Maybe you want to drive an S209, an S202. Maybe you want to drive a BRZ. So now the power delivery matches the BRZ, and all the power is going to the rear. So now it feels like you're driving a rear-wheel drive car with power delivery and everything to match, but it's still the same car. What if this would offer the ability to deliver multiple driving experiences in one platform, depending on whatever you want to select? I think that's fascinating. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And again, Subaru, you heard it here first. You owe me an STI if you use this. And I think it would be really cool. This could open a new possibility for, like, again, the experience and the performance of an EV and make it way more customizable. And that's one of the things, the customizable, the tuning ability for an EV, that's one of the big questions that people have, I think, looking at these platforms. Could this be a big opening that we could use to make these EVs work more the way that we want them to work, or drive the way we want them to drive. I think it's a fascinating thing. So yeah, this is a weird piece of Subaru news, but it's making the rounds, so we had to make this video to throw it out to you. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We'll see what happens next week. Maybe they're going to patent a flying car or something like that. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support as always. And until next time, stay tuned to Flatiron's Tuning.